A billionaire visited an orphanage to make a generous donation, expecting it to be just another normal charity event. But when an 8-year-old girl stretched out her hand, the small star-shaped birthmark on her wrist made him freeze in shock. What that tiny mark revealed moments later, no one in the room was prepared for. Hello family, welcome to Tales by King. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The morning sun rose slowly over Sunshine Orphanage, painting the small building in warm golden light. The orphanage was not very big, and the walls showed signs of age, but the place was always clean and full of life. Children's laughter often filled the courtyard, even on difficult days. On this particular morning, however, the atmosphere felt different. The caregivers moved quickly from one room to another, arranging chairs, cleaning windows, and placing fresh flowers near the entrance. Something important was about to happen. Children, please wear your best clothes today, the director, Mrs. Thompson, announced with a gentle smile. A very important guest is coming to visit us. He is bringing gifts and support for the orphanage. The moment she said those words, excitement spread across the hall. Some children began whispering happily. Others ran to check their clothes again, hoping they looked neat enough. Visitors usually meant new toys, snacks, or school supplies, and for many of the children, those small things meant a lot. But not everyone shared the same excitement. 8-year-old Lena sat quietly near the window in the reading room, watching the birds outside. She had been living in Sunshine Orphanage for almost 4 years. Over time, she had learned that visitors often came with smiles and promises, but most of them never returned again. Because of this, Lena had stopped expecting anything special from such visits. She wore a simple light blue dress that one of the caregivers had ironed carefully that morning. Her dark curly hair was tied gently into 2 small puffs, and her soft brown eyes carried a calm, thoughtful expression that made her seem older than her age. On her left wrist was a small star-shaped birthmark, something she had been born with. Some of the younger children thought it looked magical and sometimes asked to touch it. Others joked about it, saying it looked unusual. Lena never complained. To her, it was simply part of who she was. Outside, the sound of cars suddenly echoed through the quiet street. Several shiny black vehicles slowly stopped in front of the orphanage gate. The children rushed toward the windows, trying to see who had arrived. "He's here! He's here!" one of the boys shouted excitedly. Caregivers quickly guided the children into a neat line near the entrance. Lena followed quietly and stood at the very end of the line, folding her hands in front of her. She did not want to push forward like the others. She preferred watching quietly from the side. A tall man stepped out of the first car. He wore a perfectly fitted dark suit, and the sunlight reflected slightly off his watch. His name was Mr. Adrian Cole, one of the youngest and most successful billionaires in the country. Many people knew him not only for his businesses, but also for the charity work he had recently begun supporting. Cameras followed him as he walked toward the building, but his face remained calm and professional. When he entered the orphanage hall, Mrs. Thompson welcomed him warmly. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Cole. The children have been waiting all morning." He smiled politely. "I'm happy to be here." Boxes of toys, books, and school supplies were brought inside, and the children clapped happily. For many of them, it felt like a small celebration. Mr. Cole then began greeting the children one by one, shaking their hands and asking simple questions. "What is your name? What do you like to study? What do you want to become in the future?" The children answered excitedly, some speaking quickly, others shyly whispering their responses. Lena watched everything quietly from the end of the line. She did not expect the man to notice her. She simply waited for her turn, her small fingers gently touching the edge of her dress. Finally, Mr. Cole reached the last child before her. After greeting him, he stepped forward and stood in front of Lena. She slowly lifted her eyes to look at him. "Hello," he said gently. "What is your name?" "Lena," she replied softly. As she extended her hand for a handshake, the sleeve of her dress slid slightly back, revealing the small star-shaped birthmark on her wrist. The moment Mr. Cole's eyes fell on the mark, his expression suddenly changed. His smile faded. His eyes widened in shock. And for a few long seconds, the billionaire stood completely still, staring at the little girl's wrist as if he had just seen something impossible. Lena slowly lowered her hand, unsure of what was happening. She wondered if she had done something wrong. "Sir, is everything all right?" Mrs. Thompson asked gently, stepping closer. Mr. Cole blinked, as if waking from deep thought. He quickly tried to regain his calm expression, but the surprise in his eyes was still clear. "Yes, I'm fine," he said quietly, though his voice sounded slightly unsteady. He bent down slowly, so that he was at the same eye level as Lena. His face, which had looked formal and distant when he first arrived, now showed something very different: confusion, curiosity, and a deep emotion he was trying hard to control. "Lena," he said softly, "have you always had that birthmark?" She nodded. "Yes. They said I had it when I was a baby. Do you know anything about where you came from? Your parents, maybe?" Lena shook her head gently. "No, sir. They told me I was found near a hospital when I was very small. Nobody came to look for me." Mr. Cole swallowed slowly. His heart began beating faster. Many years ago, something very painful had happened in his family. Something he had tried to forget, but never truly could. His younger sister had lost her daughter during a terrible accident. The little girl had disappeared in the confusion, and despite years of searching, no one had ever found her. What made the memory unforgettable was one small detail. The child had been born with a tiny star-shaped birthmark on her wrist. Mr. Cole stood up slowly, his mind filled with questions. Could it really be possible? He wondered. Or was this only a coincidence? He forced a gentle smile toward Lena. "Thank you, Lena," he said kindly. "It was nice meeting you." She smiled shyly back, still not understanding why the man had looked so shocked. Turning to the orphanage director, Mr. Cole spoke politely. "Mrs. Thompson, may I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Of course," she replied, leading him toward her office. Inside the quiet room, Mr. Cole closed the door softly and took a deep breath before speaking. "There is something important I need to ask," he said. "That little girl, Lena, do you have any records about how she arrived here?" Mrs. Thompson opened a cabinet and carefully brought out a file. "She was brought here by a nurse 8 years ago," she explained. "She had been found near the emergency entrance of a hospital, wrapped in a small blanket. No identification, no note, nothing that told us who her family was." Mr. Cole listened carefully, his thoughts racing. "My family lost a child many years ago," he said slowly. "My sister's daughter disappeared during an accident. She had a birthmark, exactly like the one I saw today." Mrs. Thompson looked surprised but thoughtful. "It could be a coincidence," she said gently. "But if there is even a small possibility, we can look into it properly." Mr. Cole nodded. "Yes, I do not want to create false hope, but I also cannot ignore what I saw." He stood quietly for a moment, staring at the floor as memories returned. The long nights his sister had cried, the years the family had searched, and the silence that followed when they finally believed the child was gone forever. Finally, he looked up. "Please keep this conversation private for now. I would like to handle this carefully." "Of course," Mrs. Thompson replied kindly. As Mr. Cole stepped out of the office and looked across the hall again, his eyes immediately found Lena. She was sitting quietly with the other children, holding a small toy someone had just given her. For the first time since arriving, his visit no longer felt like a simple charity event. Something inside him was telling him that this moment could change everything. Mr. Cole's chest felt tight. "If she is really my niece," he thought, "then my family has been suffering for nothing all these years." He forced himself to breathe slowly. He had built huge companies. He had handled big deals and serious problems. But this felt different. This was not business. This was his heart. He walked back into the hall and continued the visit as planned. He smiled for the cameras. He helped hand out food packs. He sat with some children and asked about their schoolwork. He even laughed when one small boy boldly asked him, "Sir, are you richer than a king?" Mr. Cole replied with a calm smile, "A king is rich in many ways, not only money." The children giggled, and the adults clapped politely. But even as he did all this, his eyes kept returning to Lena again and again. Lena noticed it. At first, she thought maybe her dress was dirty, or maybe she had held her teddy bear wrongly. She kept adjusting herself and checking her sleeves. She also noticed the way his face softened each time he looked at her, like he was seeing something he could not understand. Later, when everyone moved outside to take group photos, Lena stood behind the others, trying to hide. One of the caregivers, Auntie Rose, noticed and bent down beside her. "Why are you staying far back, Lena?" Lena shrugged. "I don't like pictures." Auntie Rose smiled warmly. "Just stand close. It's okay. Nobody will harm you." Lena obeyed quietly and stepped forward. Mr. Cole suddenly walked closer. The cameras turned quickly, following him. "Lena," he called gently. She looked up, surprised that he remembered her name. "Yes, sir?" He crouched down again so he could speak to her without intimidating her. "I want you to know something," he said softly. "You did nothing wrong. I only noticed your birthmark. It reminded me of someone very important to me." Lena blinked. "Someone you know?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Someone I lost," he said. "A long time ago." Lena's small face changed. For a moment, she looked like she understood pain, even though she was still a child. "I lost people too," she whispered. Mr. Cole's throat tightened. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. Lena nodded once and looked down at her teddy bear again. Mr. Cole gently stood up and turned away before his emotions showed too much. He needed proof, not just feelings. That evening, after he left the orphanage, Mr. Cole sat in the back seat of his car while the city lights passed outside the window. His assistant, Mr. Grant, sat in the front seat, scrolling through his phone. "Sir," Grant asked, "are you okay? You've been quiet since we left." Mr. Cole did not answer immediately. Then he said, "Grant, I need you to help me with something personal." Grant turned slightly surprised. "Of course, sir." Mr. Cole took a deep breath. "I think I saw my niece today." Grant almost dropped his phone. "Your niece? But your family said she was never found." "I know," Mr. Cole said, his voice firm but low. "That's why I need to be careful. I need the truth, not guesses." Grant nodded quickly. "What do you want me to do?" "I want a proper DNA test arranged," Mr. Cole said. Quietly, respectfully. "And I want you to find everything you can about Lena's past. Hospital records, any old reports, anything." Grant's face became serious. "Yes, sir. I will handle it immediately." Mr. Cole leaned back and closed his eyes for a few seconds. He could already imagine his sister's face if this was true. But he also knew something else. If this was false hope, it could break his sister all over again. So he promised himself he would do everything the right way. Back at Sunshine Orphanage, Lena lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. The other girls in her room were still talking excitedly about the gifts and the visit. "Did you see his car?" one girl said. "It looked like a spaceship." "I want to marry a rich man when I grow up," another girl laughed. Lena did not laugh. She kept thinking of Mr. Cole's eyes when he saw her wrist. Why did he look like that? She wondered. Why did he look like he was scared? She slowly pulled her sleeve back and stared at the small star-shaped mark on her wrist. It looked normal to her. It had always been there. But tonight, for the first time, Lena wondered if that birthmark meant something more. She turned to Auntie Rose, who was checking beds before lights out. "Auntie Rose," Lena called softly. "Yes, my dear? Do you think people can find family they never knew?" Lena asked quietly. Auntie Rose's face softened. She walked closer and sat beside Lena's bed. "Sometimes," she said gently, "life surprises us. Sometimes, family comes when you least expect it." Lena's eyes became watery. "Do you think someone might be looking for me?" Auntie Rose brushed her hair softly. "Anything is possible, Lena. Just rest. Tomorrow is a new day." Lena nodded and closed her eyes. But her heart did not rest. Because somewhere deep inside her, a small hope, one she had buried for years, was starting to rise again. And while Lena slept in her small bed at the orphanage, Mr. Adrian Cole sat in his quiet living room long after midnight. The house was big, beautiful, and expensive, but that night it felt empty. The only light came from a small lamp beside him and the soft glow of the city outside the windows. On the table in front of him was the old family photo. His sister, Vivian, was smiling in the picture, holding her baby girl close. The baby's cheeks were round and bright, and her tiny hand was lifted slightly, showing the same star-shaped birthmark. Mr. Cole stared at it until his eyes burned. He had tried for years to avoid this pain. He had thrown himself into business, into work, into building an empire, because it was easier than remembering the day his family broke apart. But now the past was standing right in front of him again, alive, breathing, and sitting quietly in an orphanage. A soft knock came at the door. It was Mr. Grant, his assistant, holding a thin folder. "Sir," Grant said carefully, stepping in, "I have an update." Mr. Cole sat up straight. "Tell me." Grant placed the folder on the table. "We arranged the DNA test with the orphanage. Everything was done properly and privately. The sample has been taken, and the lab says the results will be ready soon." Mr. Cole nodded slowly, trying not to show how desperate he felt inside. Grant hesitated, then added, "Sir, I also checked hospital records from 8 years ago. It wasn't easy, but I found something. Mr. Cole's eyes sharpened. What did you find? Grant opened the folder. There was an emergency case that night, an accident on the expressway. A woman was brought in, badly injured, and she kept asking for her child. The report says she was confused and weak, but she repeated the child's name. Mr. Cole's hands tightened. What name? Grant looked at the paper. She said, Eliana. Mr. Cole's breath caught. That was the name his sister had given her baby. The room felt like it had suddenly lost air. Are you sure? Mr. Cole asked, his voice almost a whisper. Grant nodded. Yes, sir. The record is real. It's not foolproof, but it matches your family story. Mr. Cole leaned back slowly, his eyes fixed on the paper, but his mind far away. If this is true, he thought, then Lena is not just a random child with a similar birthmark. She is really ours. But even with all this, he still needed the final proof, because hope without truth could destroy people. The next few days felt longer than any year Mr. Cole had lived. During meetings, he looked calm, but inside he was restless. He signed documents without fully reading them. He listened to people talk, but the words floated past him like noise. At night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking of Lena's quiet face, the way she held her teddy bear gently, and the way she asked questions with her eyes without even speaking. He wondered what her life had been like. Was she loved at all? Did she cry at night? Did she ever feel chosen? And in the orphanage, Lena also struggled. She tried to return to her normal routine, school lessons, cleaning time, playtime, but something had changed inside her. She found herself looking toward the gate more often. Each time a car stopped outside, her heart would jump before she could control it. Auntie Rose noticed. Lena, she said one afternoon as they folded clothes together, you've been very quiet. Are you worried about something? Lena hesitated. Auntie, why did that man look at my wrist like that? Auntie Rose paused for a moment, then spoke gently. Sometimes, grown-ups see things that remind them of the past. Lena stared at the cloth in her hands. Do you think he knows me? Auntie Rose did not want to lie, but she also did not want to give her false hope. I think, she said carefully, he saw something that made him curious. That's all I know. Lena nodded slowly, but her small heart held onto that tiny word, curious. Because curiosity meant someone wanted to know more about her. And nobody had ever wanted that before. On the morning the results were ready, Mr. Grant walked into Mr. Cole's office with a sealed envelope. His face was serious. Mr. Cole stood up immediately, as if his body already knew what was inside. Is it here? He asked. Grant nodded once. Yes, sir. The room suddenly felt too small. Mr. Cole took the envelope, but did not open it right away. His hands were steady, but his chest was not. His heart was beating so loudly he could hear it in his ears. He thought of his sister Vivian, how she used to sit in the family living room with empty eyes after the accident, staring at the door, waiting for a child who never came. He thought of the many searches, the private investigators, the hospital visits, the police reports. He thought of the day Vivian finally stopped talking about it and simply became quiet. That silence had been the loudest pain of all. Mr. Cole slowly opened the envelope. He unfolded the paper. He read the words once. Then again. His eyes filled with tears. Because the results did not leave any space for doubt. Lena was a direct match. She was family. She was the lost child. She was the little girl they had been mourning for 8 years, still alive. Mr. Cole's lips parted, but no words came out. He covered his mouth with one hand and turned slightly away so Grant would not see him break down. But Grant saw anyway. Sir, Grant said softly. Mr. Cole took a shaky breath. She's Vivian's daughter, he whispered. She's my niece. He looked at the paper again, as if he feared it might disappear. She's been in an orphanage all this time, he added, his voice cracking now. All this time. Grant's eyes also became watery. What do you want to do next, sir? Mr. Cole wiped his face quickly and stood tall again, but his voice was firm, like a man who had just found his purpose. We go now, he said. Grant blinked. Now, sir? Yes, Mr. Cole replied. No delays. No cameras. No noise. Just us. We go to Sunshine Orphanage. He grabbed his coat, his mind racing with only one thought. Lena must never feel abandoned again. At Sunshine Orphanage, Lena was sitting outside under a tree during break time, drawing on a sheet of paper with a small pencil. Her drawing was simple, just a house, a sun, and two stick figures holding hands. She did not even notice the gate opening. She did not notice the car stopping. Not until the shadow of someone standing near her fell across the ground. Lena looked up, and her breath stopped. Mr. Adrian Cole was standing there again. But this time, he was not smiling like a visitor. He was looking at her like someone who had finally found what he had been missing. He stepped closer slowly, as if he was afraid he might scare her away. "Hello again, Lena," he said softly. Lena's fingers tightened around her pencil. "Sir," she whispered, unsure what to say. Mr. Cole crouched down in front of her. His eyes were shining, and his voice was gentle but serious. "Lena," he said, "I need you to listen to me carefully." And before Lena could even blink, he reached into his jacket and pulled out the paper, the DNA result. "This," he said quietly, "is the reason I came back." Lena stared at the paper, not understanding the words. But she understood the look on his face. And that look alone told her one thing. Whatever he was about to say next was going to change her life forever. "Lena," he said softly, "this paper tells us the truth." Lena swallowed. "What truth, sir?" Mr. Cole took a slow breath. "It says, you are not just a child from this orphanage," he said gently. "You are part of my family." Lena blinked as if she did not understand the meaning. "My family," she repeated, her voice small. Mr. Cole nodded. "Yes. We did a test, and it shows you are the daughter of someone very close to me." Lena's hands started to shake slightly. She held her pencil tighter. "But I don't know anyone," she whispered. "I only know here." Mr. Cole's heart squeezed. He reached out slowly, not touching her yet, just letting his hand rest on his knee. "I know," he said, "and I'm so sorry. You should never have been alone." Lena's eyes filled with tears without her permission. She did not even know why she was crying. She had cried many times before for hunger, for missing things she couldn't name, for watching other children leave with visitors. But this time her tears felt different. This time, they felt like fear and hope fighting each other. "If I have family," Lena asked, "why did nobody come?" Mr. Cole's face tightened in pain. "Because we didn't know where you were," he said quietly. "We searched for years. My sister, she never stopped hoping. But we were told you were gone. We believed you were lost forever." Lena looked down at her drawing. The two stick figures holding hands suddenly looked like a dream. "And your sister," Lena whispered. "Is she my mother?" Mr. Cole shook his head gently. "No, Lena. She is your aunt. Your mother is my sister's daughter. She was very young when you were born. Her name is Vivian." Lena repeated the name slowly. "Vivian." It sounded strange, like a name from another world. Mr. Cole spoke carefully, making sure the words were simple and clear. "Vivian is alive," he said. "But she has been broken in her heart for many years because she believed she lost you. She never forgot you, Lena. Not for one day." Lena's lips trembled. "She remembers me?" "Yes," Mr. Cole said firmly. "She remembers you. And she loves you. She just didn't know where you were." Auntie Rose and Mrs. Thompson, who had been watching from a distance, slowly walked closer. Their faces were already wet with tears. They had seen many sad stories at the orphanage, but they had also prayed for miracles. This looked like one. Mrs. Thompson spoke softly. "Mr. Cole, are you saying Lena has family waiting for her?" Mr. Cole stood up and faced her respectfully. "Yes," he said. "And I want to do everything properly. I want to bring my sister here today. Not with cameras. Not with noise. Just love and truth." Mrs. Thompson nodded, wiping her eyes. "We will support you. We only want what is best for Lena." Lena suddenly felt the world spinning. A part of her wanted to run and hide. Another part wanted to jump into the air and scream with joy. But the strongest feeling was fear. Because hope could hurt. She had been disappointed too many times. She looked up at Mr. Cole again. "Sir, will you go away again?" That question hit him like a stone. Mr. Cole knelt down again, so they were face to face. "No," he said firmly. "I will not go away. Not now. Not ever. You have my word." Lena stared at him, trying to decide if she could believe a promise from a man like him. Then Mr. Cole gently pointed at her drawing on the ground. "Is that a house?" he asked. Lena nodded slowly. "And these two people?" he asked softly. Lena's voice was small. "A mother and a child." Mr. Cole swallowed and looked away for a second, fighting tears. "Then let's make it real," he whispered. That same day, a quiet car arrived at the orphanage. A woman stepped out slowly. She was beautiful, but her beauty carried sadness. Her eyes looked like they had cried for many years. She held her handbag tightly, like she needed something to hold on to. Her name was Vivian Cole. The moment she entered the courtyard, she froze, just like her brother had frozen the first day. Because there, under the tree, was Lena. The little girl looked up and met her eyes. Vivian's breath left her body. She took one step forward, then another, slowly, like she was walking into a dream she was afraid to wake up from. "Lena," Vivian whispered, even though nobody had told her Lena's name yet. Lena stood up slowly. Auntie Rose gently moved closer behind Lena, ready to support her if she got scared. Vivian's eyes dropped to Lena's wrist. The birthmark. The star. Vivian's hands covered her mouth as a quiet sound of pain escaped her. Half cry, half prayer. "Oh God," Vivian whispered. "It's you, it's really you." Lena's heart beat fast. She didn't know why, but her feet moved on their own. She walked forward slowly. Vivian dropped to her knees right there on the dusty ground. "I'm sorry," Vivian cried. "I'm so sorry I didn't find you earlier. I'm so sorry, my baby." Lena stopped in front of her, shaking. Vivian looked up at her with the kind of love Lena had only seen in other children's stories. "I looked for you," Vivian said through tears. "I screamed your name for years. I never wanted to leave you. Never." Lena's eyes spilled over. "Then why am I here?" Lena whispered. Vivian reached out gently, not grabbing, not forcing, only asking with her eyes for permission. Lena hesitated for one long second. Then she leaned forward and allowed Vivian to hold her. Vivian hugged her like she was holding her whole life. The courtyard became silent. Even the children stopped playing. Even the caregivers stopped moving. Because everyone could feel it. This was not a normal visit. This was a lost love returning home. Later that evening, in the orphanage hall, Mr. Cole asked everyone to gather. There were no loud decorations, no big show, just people sitting and listening, with hearts full. Mr. Cole stood in front of them with Vivian beside him. Lena sat quietly on a chair close to Auntie Rose, still holding her teddy bear, still trying to understand that she was not alone anymore. Mr. Cole looked around the hall. "I came here to donate," he began. "I came here thinking I would change this orphanage with money." He paused and looked at Lena. "But I walked in, and God gave me something money can never buy." His voice shook, but he kept going. "This child," he said, "is my family. She was lost. And today she was found." Some people began to cry openly. Mr. Cole took a deep breath. "And because of what I saw here," he continued, "I made a decision." He turned to Mrs. Thompson. "From today, Sunshine Orphanage will not struggle again. We will rebuild the classrooms. We will improve the dormitories. We will add a medical unit. We will provide school scholarships for every child here." The hall filled with shocked gasps. Mrs. Thompson covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Mr. Cole raised his hand gently. "But this is not just about buildings," he said. "It's about dignity. Every child here deserves to feel seen. Every child deserves to feel safe." He looked at the children directly. "You are not forgotten," he said. "Not anymore." That night, Lena lay in her bed at the orphanage for what she knew might be one of her last nights there. But this time, she was not staring at the ceiling with emptiness. Vivian had sat with her before lights out. She had combed Lena's hair gently. She had told Lena stories about her family, about grandparents, cousins, and a home that had been waiting without knowing it. Before leaving the room, Vivian whispered, "Tomorrow, if you are ready, you can come home with me. But I will not force you. I will wait until your heart feels safe." Lena had nodded slowly, tears still in her eyes. Now, in the quiet, Lena looked down at her wrist again. The star-shaped birthmark. For years, it had been just a mark. But now it felt like a message. A sign that her life had always been connected to someone, even when she couldn't see it. She hugged her teddy bear and smiled softly. For the first time in a long time, she did not feel like an orphan. She felt like a child with a name, a place, and people who would fight to keep her. And as the moonlight rested gently on the orphanage window, Lena finally understood something simple and powerful. Sometimes the thing that makes you different is the very thing that leads you back to where you belong. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.